Joining us right now is Dr. Scott Gottlieb. He is former FDA commissioner and a CNBC contributor. He also serves on the boards of both Pfizer and Illumina. And he's got a new essay out in Time magazine. Americans are still living with a 2020 attitude toward COVID-19 risk. It's time for that to change. And Dr. Gottlieb, welcome. It's good to see you this morning.
Thanks a lot.
Let's start first very quickly with this idea that COVID cases dropping 19% around the world. To what do you attribute that?
Look, I attribute it just to the Omicron wave passing through. If you look at what happened in South Africa, it moved up very sharply. It moved down very sharply. Even when B2 went into that region of the world, you didn't really see an overall change in the trajectory of the pandemic. Cases probably had a longer plateau, but it's hard to discern. Cases have come down. Now, B2 represents about 100% of all the cases that they're diagnosing in South Africa, but it hasn't caused another uptick in the pandemic, in the wave of infection that they experienced, largely because probably the immunity that people have acquired from Omicron, from B1, is cross-protective from that B2 variant. So there really doesn't appear to be anything on the near-term horizon that's going to change this overall trajectory, where we see Omicron infections spike up very sharply in regions of the world and come down just as quickly. And now you're seeing most of the world on the back end of that curve, with the exception of some nations in Asia which haven't experienced an epidemic yet.
I mean, if we have the expectation of these waves continuing to hit us from time to time, you still say that this is a point where we should really be looking at the risks very differently than we were 2 years ago when this all started. Lay out what you think the risk factor is right now and how we should address this.
Yeah, look, I think the expectation is that we're not going to get hit by these successive waves of new variants. At some point, this virus is going to stop mutating at the rate in which it's been mutating. It's been mutating probably as quickly as influenza B, maybe a little bit more quickly. And we've had these successive waves of infection. This is a respiratory pathogen that really shouldn't be circulating in the spring and summertime. It should be a winter pathogen like other coronaviruses, like influenza. So eventually it's going to settle into that seasonal pattern. Many people expect this will be the year that happens. I expected that last year would be the year that happens. I didn't anticipate that there would be anything after the Delta wave. But I think the conventional wisdom is that it's more and more likely that this is going to slow its rate of mutation, and Omicron will be the dominant mutation now, and future mutations will occur within that lineage. And so that means we should have a relatively quiet spring and summer. Hopefully there's no new variant that sweeps through the South like Delta did last year. And it means we're going to have to contend with this more as a winter pathogen when we come back in the fall. I think that's the base case right now. Now, again, there's a lot of uncertainty. We don't fully understand this virus, and it has shown the capacity to surprise us before. Now, what does that mean? I think it means that we need to start to rethink notions of risk. We have a population now where more than 90% of the population, well more than 90%, has some form of immunity, either through vaccination, infection, or both. Most of the people who've chosen to go unvaccinated are not that concerned about COVID and don't want to be subjected to the measures. With that much immunity in the population, not just a lot broad immunity, but deep immunity, many people have been both vaccinated and infected. This shouldn't spread with the same velocity and the same pathogenicity that it's spread in the past, and we could start taking more risk. We can start lifting mask mandates in schools. We shouldn't be closing schools anymore. People can return to work. You can see mask ordinances lifted in local townships. We need to lean forward and start relaxing some of the measures as vigorously as we put them in place.
The CDC says that it is considering these rule changes, but it's kind of behind with what every local official, every state official is doing at this point.
Yeah, look, I think the CDC has a view that it's appropriate for them to be lagging a little bit, that they represent sort of a base case, and states can lean forward more aggressively based on local customs, local risks, local demands of citizens. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because I think states still look to CDC to be an authoritative body. And until we get out of that culture, if CDC does lag, then it's going to put pressure on the states to be more restrictive than perhaps they want to be or they need to be. If CDC wants to maintain its authoritative position in this country, I think they need to be more thoughtful and lean forward as well. Now, they will announce some new guidance next week on mask recommendations, in particular, tying risk to local measures of prevalence and hospitalizations and not just cases. I think that's an appropriate adjustment, that we start looking at the impact of COVID and not just daily cases. But, it's late in the game to be doing that. This is something we probably should have done a year ago.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.